What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your WetPar Pro Outdoor Par Wash Light. It comes in two colors of black and white, but the setup for each is the exact same. As you can see, it comes with the light itself, which is sturdy and waterproof so it can handle all types of weather. It also comes with a weather-resistant PowerCon to 3-prong power cable, a weather-resistant DMX cable, a weather-resistant PowerCon link cable, and a wireless IR remote. So the first thing we can do to set it up is take the PowerCon to 3-prong power cable. So you're going to take the PowerCon end and line up the grooves here to the grooves of the power in socket, twist it to lock it in place, and then plug the other end into your power source. After that, your light will power on right away. Now you can even use the PowerCon link cable to link the two lights together so that they're sharing the same power. To do that, you'll take one end of the link cable, plug it into the power out socket of the light you're already powering, then take the other end and plug it into the power in socket of the next light. After that, you'll notice that both lights are powered on and ready to go. And if you wanted to power even more lights, you can continue this process all the way down your chain. Now there are many different ways you can have these lights set up, with one of the ways being wall washing. To do that, you can use the dual bracket to angle your light upwards and place it right in front of your wall. Or if you wanted to have a different lighting effect, you can place your light a few inches away from your wall and use the dual bracket to angle the light towards the wall itself. And once you have it in the position that you like, you can use any of the included modes or colors, but we're going to get to all of that in a bit. You would also use these same exact steps if you wanted to light up a DJ facade, and depending on how big or wide your wall or DJ facade is, you can use multiple lights to have a much more illuminated effect. You can also use the dual bracket to mount your light onto a truss. To do that, you're going to need a lighting clamp like our very own LC70. You're going to start by taking off this bolt piece here on your clamp. Then you're going to take the bolt and run it through the two holes here of your brackets and screw the lighting clamp back onto the bolt. Now to mount the light onto your truss, you're going to loosen this butterfly screw here, line up the clamp to any open spot on your truss, and screw in the butterfly screw to lock the light in place. From there, you can plug in your power cables or your power link cables to complete your setup. Now there are several mode options that we can toggle through using the buttons underneath the LED display. You would use the menu button to go through all the different modes, the up and down buttons to go through all of the different settings for that mode, and the enter button to either save our changes or go into the sub-menus of some of these modes. For a full look of all the different modes available, you can check out this cheat sheet here, and you can even use the wireless remote to set these lights into some of these settings. So let's go through all of these modes now. The A settings allow you to set the DMX address for the light, which is what you would want to use to link your lights to a DMX controller or to set up the lights in your chain as slave lights, but we're going to get back to that in a bit. Next to that, we have the channel settings where we can set the DMX channel for your lights, which determines how much control you have over your lights while they're set up to a DMX controller. We're going to go over the difference between 6-channel and 10-channel mode later on. Next to that, we have the CL mode where we can set the light into a single color and use the up and down buttons to set the lights into any of the available 32 colors. Next, we have the color cycle mode where the lights will cycle between all 32 colors. And here we can use the up and down buttons to set the speed of the cycle. So the higher we set this setting, the faster the colors will cycle, and the lower we have the setting, the slower the colors will cycle. Next, we have the color pulse mode where the light pulses between each color. And again, we can use the up and down buttons to set the speed of this mode. Next, we have the color fade mode where the lights will fade between each color, and we can use the up and down buttons here to set the speed of the fade. Next, we have the strobe mode where the lights will strobe to a certain color. We can use the up and down buttons to set the speed of the strobe. And if we press enter in this setting, we activate the sub menu where we can pick the color the light will strobe to. Now there are 4 different sound modes that will change the light whenever there's sound picked up by the built-in microphone. So we have sound mode 1, which will cycle between each color, sound mode 2 where the light will pulse between each color, sound mode 3 that acts as a color strobe, and sound mode 4 which has a color change and a white strobe in between. Next we have the IRCL mode where we can turn on or turn off the infrared remote sensor, which essentially allows you to turn on or turn off the ability to use your remote. This would be handy if you had multiple lights set up in a row, but you only want to point your remote to one light to change all of your lights at once, so you don't accidentally point your remote to another light and throw off your chain. Now since this is an RGB WA plus UV light, we have 6 different modes where we can change the intensity of the red, green, blue, white, amber, or ultraviolet LEDs to make a fully customized color. So if you have all of these modes set up to different intensities, you'll then be mixing a bunch of different colors together for a fully customized color. Now, if you don't want to be fussing with the back panel of your lights, or if they're out of reach, you can always use the included remote to change the settings of your light. So with the remote, I can set it to the base colors of red, green, blue, white, amber, or ultraviolet. I can even set the light to auto, strobe, or fade mode. And we can also set our lights to any of the sound modes. What's also really cool is the color wheel mode here. So when we have this button pressed, we can use the up and down buttons to cycle between each color. We also have these 3 unique colors here. And when we have the lights set to any of these colors, we can use the up and down buttons to set the brightness of the color. We also have the master button to set our light to the master light, the slave button to set the lights into slave mode, and we also have a button to set the light into 6-channel or 10-channel mode. We also have the up and down buttons here to set the brightness of any color or the speed of any mode, and we also have the off button to turn the bulbs of the light off and the on button to set the bulbs back on. What's also really cool is that you can use just one of these remotes to control multiple Wet Par Pros at once, but just be sure to be in a line of sight distance away so you can use your remote with your lights. Now, if you wanted to have even more control over your lights, you can always set them up to a DMX controller. To do that, you're going to need 2 DMX cables, but we recommend you use the water resistant DMX cables depending on your setup. I'm going to take one cable and plug the male end into the DMX out on my controller. Then I'm going to take the other end and plug it into the DMX in port on my first light. And now to connect my first light to the next light, I'm going to take another DMX cable, plug the male end into the DMX out on my first light, then plug the other end into the DMX in on the next light. And if you wanted to set up even more lights in your chain, you're just going to repeat this process. Next, we want to set our lights to the same DMX address so that they know to communicate with the controller. So we're going to go into the A settings of each light and set them to the same DMX address. For today, we're going to use A001. You can also do this by using the wireless remote by pressing the slave button and using the up and down buttons to set the address. We're also going to want to set our lights to the same DMX channel with 6-channel or 10-channel mode. This will determine how much control you have over your light with your DMX controller. 6-channel mode only gives you control over the 6 LED colors, while 10-channel mode gives you control over the colors, the preset modes, and the speed for each mode. For today's demo, we're going to set the lights to 10-channel mode, just so we can show you guys the full control. Again, you can use the included remote to switch your lights between 6-channel or 10-channel mode. So after you've set the DMX address and the DMX channel mode, you're going to want to activate Scanner 1 on your controller. So now let's go through all the different faders we can use. Fader 1 acts as our master dimmer, so for today we're going to set that all the way up. Fader 2 controls the red LEDs, so if I raise that, you'll start to see the red coming through. Fader 3 controls the green LEDs. Fader 4 controls the blue LEDs. Fader 5 controls the white LEDs, Fader 6 controls the amber, and Fader 7 controls the ultraviolet LEDs. We can use Fader 8 to activate the strobe mode, and the higher I set this fader, the faster the strobe will become. So if I raise it just a little bit, you'll start to see that it strobes a little slow, and if I raise it even more, you'll see that the strobe goes on faster. Now Fader 9 allows us to set the lights to all of the different modes and the single color choices we have. And the value we set this fader to determines the function of the lights. You can always tell what value your fader is at by looking at the display on your controller. So for example, if I set the fader anywhere from 51 to 100, it will activate the color change mode. Lastly, we have Fader 10, which will either control the speed of these modes or which color the light is set to. So for example, if I raise Fader 10 in the color change mode, you'll see that the colors change a lot faster. And also if I have the light set to the color select mode, I can use Fader 10 to pick which color comes out. Now if you wanted to have control over multiple Wet Par Pros but you didn't want to use a DMX controller, you can do this by using the master slave function. So first we're going to want to pick which light we want to have as our master light. So for today we're going to go with this guy here. Next we're going to need a DMX cable. We recommend you use the included weather resistant cables depending on your setup. So then you're going to take the male end of the cable and plug it into the DMX out on your master light. Then take the other end and plug it into the DMX in on your next light. Now if you wanted to set up even more, you're just going to need another DMX cable Plug the male end into the DMX out you last connected, then plug the other end into the DMX in on your next light, and repeat this process all the way down your chain. You're also going to want to make sure that your master light is set to master mode and your slave lights are set to slave mode. You can do this by taking the included remote and setting your master light to master mode, and then you can point the remote to your slave lights to set them to slave, or you could also do this by setting all of your slave lights to the same DMX address. So now if I take my remote and set my master light to any of the modes, you'll see that the slave light is going to follow. We also recommend you turn off the IRCL on all of your slave lights so that they don't go out of sync in your chain. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your Wet Par Pro outdoor par wash lights. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.